Badlands. What are the Badlands? Explain those Badlands. That's a hell of a name.
Mr. Vice President, I'm going off script again, I know, but I just want to personally thank you. We've been through some stuff. We've gone through some of the most complex military operations this country's ever conducted, and your steady hand and your leadership during those was a great source of strength for me. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your character. Thank you for your selfless service. Thank you for commitment. Thank you for being a mentor to me, Mr. Vice President.
It's called the swamp. And you know what happened? And you know what I did? A big favor. I caught the swamp. I caught them all. Let's see what happens. Nobody else could have done that but me. I caught all of this corruption that was going on, and nobody else could have done it. Did I get that one right? Every 4 years, we gather on these steps to carry out the orderly and peaceful transfer of power. Today's ceremony, however, has very special meaning, because today we are not merely transferring power from one administration to another, but we are transferring power from Washington, D.C., and giving it back to you, the people. For too long, a small group in our nation's capital has reaped the rewards of government, while the people have borne the cost. Washington flourished, but the people did not share in its wealth. This American carnage stops right here and stops right now. The forgotten men and women of our country will be forgotten no longer. From this day forward, a new vision will govern our land. From this day forward, it's going to be only America first.
This is a president of the United States who is a danger to the republic.
America first.
He knows he's an illegitimate president.
The oath of office I take today is an oath of allegiance to all Americans.
The great Trump recovery.
America will never be a socialist country. I will fight for you with every breath in my body.
Russia, Russian, pro-Russian, Russian, Russia, Russian, 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 the Russians.
Russia.
And I will never, ever let you down.
A dangerous virus is spreading rapidly in China, and U.S. officials are very worried that it could come here.
This is really the worst attack we've ever had. This is worse than Pearl Harbor. This is worse than the World Trade Center. There's never been an attack like this.
The time for empty talk is over. Now arrives the hour of action. What they're doing is using COVID to steal an election. Together, we will make America strong again. You know what it's about? Fraud, fake ballots. We will make America wealthy again. They are trying to steal the election.
Now, under the leadership of President Trump, we are fully realizing President Kennedy's prescient view of Special Operations Forces.
We will make America proud again. And watch, please, those mail-in ballots. We will make America safe again. And in millions and millions of ballots, their vote is under what they thought they needed. They're dumping more ballots in there, okay? And yes, together, we will make America great again. Thank you. God bless you. If we are right about the fraud, Joe Biden can't be president.
Congress, the chair declares the joint session dissolved.
Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Saturday edition of the Devolution Power Hour. Hope you guys all had a great 4th of July. Chris, how you doing, man?
I'm good, man. I ate some burgers. I saw some fireworks shot off from the street. And what more do you need?
Not much more that I could think of. I did the same, minus the burgers.
Well,
I had a hot dog instead.
Okay, well, that's not a huge mistake.
No.
It is a mistake, but not a huge one.
Yeah, I would agree with the mistake part, but it was good. And but yeah, the fireworks show. I don't know why. Where'd you go? You don't have to tell me exactly where.
It was like a neighborhood, and it was just super hot, and people were just there's fireworks stores all over the place, and so people just buy fireworks and start launching them off.
Yeah.
And honestly, man, when it's going on around a whole neighborhood, it's kind of a cool effect.
Yeah, I agree with that. So I took my kids, like in Bismarck every year, they have like a citywide shoot that they do. Bismarck doesn't allow in city limit fireworks shooting, but across the river in Mandan they do, so you can see them shooting it all off. But in Bismarck, it doesn't get dark till like 9:45, and then it doesn't get like pitch black or whatever, super dark out until 10:30. So the fireworks shoot wasn't until 10:30.
Wow.
And yeah, there's just so many people there, and I didn't get the kids home and in bed till like midnight last night. So that's the only downside to the whole 4th of July thing, but they absolutely love the fireworks.
So they loved it even though it was that late at night?
Yeah, I mean, they started getting a little emotional and cranky, like at maybe 9 o'clock. So like the littlest things were setting them off. Like my daughter, her granola bar that I packed her, it broke in half in the wrapper, and that was like devastating to her. Something that normally wouldn't bother her. My son, his Capri Sun was too warm, stuff like that, But other than that, it was a great night.
Well, having to wait for the only part of the thing that's cool and doing it for 2 hours when you're like a little kid, that's a lifetime.
Oh yeah. Well, plus, and I love the city fireworks shoot, but they always, in my opinion, mess it up because they'll shoot off like this huge sequence, right? And it's awesome. And then like, oh, that has to be the finale.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's like a pause. And so we start getting ready to go. And then they start shooting off again. And it goes and goes and goes. And it's good. But then it ends with like the weak stuff. And we're like, there's no way that's the finale. They can't end on that when they had this awesome thing earlier. But sure enough, that's the finale. And so it's this awesome fireworks show that always ends just with not with a bang. I'll say that.
Have you ever seen the movie The Naked Gun with Leslie Nielsen?
I don't think so.
Oh man. I saw it a few weeks ago for like the 20th time. They're going to put out a new one with Liam Neeson. And there's this scene where it's all like slapstick comedy.
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
Clever one-liners and stuff.
Yeah.
And so there's a scene where Leslie Nielsen has to speak at like a city hall event, and then he's left the microphone on and goes in the restroom to pee, and he just keeps peeing for a really long time, and it's really loud, and then he finally stops, and they're like, thank goodness we don't have to listen to this coming through the loudspeakers anymore. And then he continues on his way, and it just keeps going. Sounds
just like the
fireworks
show.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. Nailed it. Anyway, plenty to talk about tonight. We're going to get into the big, beautiful bill passed. So that was, I'm not as excited about some of the things in there, but we'll talk about what it all means. And then the aftermath of that is Elon Musk's gay little political party that he's formed. So we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
We'll get into what else do I got listed here. We got some the Elon Musk thing. What the heck? What else did I say we were going to talk about? Oh yeah, some interesting Trump comments the last couple days. We got this post from Paul Sperry about Michael Ellis, and I want to talk about that because Michael Ellis is heavily featured in the Devolution series, and I think the post is BS. We're also going to talk a little bit about the Intel community, and then that might be it.
That seems like a lot.
Yeah, but I feel like we had more, but it's still a lot. So whatever. Well, I'm sure stuff will come up as we go. But before we do any of that, let's get a quick word from sponsors of tonight's show. First up, we got a little CB Distillery. Summer's here, guys. And it's time to relax and hit the refresh button But if stress and sleepless nights and sore muscles are getting in the way of that, CB Distillery's got you covered. CB Distillery's 4th of July sale is on, and you can save up to 50% site-wide with code RUMBLE. I'm a personal fan of the sleep one, and I can vouch for it. CB Distillery's got plant-based solutions for just about everything you can think of, whether it's better sleep, relaxation, mood and focus, pain after exercise, and it's all made with premium hemp grown right here in the United States. There's no fillers or artificial ingredients. That's why over 2 million people trust CB Distillery. The 4th of July sale is the perfect time to stock up and save up to 50% off with code RUMBLE. And if you haven't tried CBD, there is no better time to do so. Visit cbdistillery.com, use promo code RUMBLE. That's cbdistillery.com, code RUMBLE. Specific product availability depends on individual state regulations. We also got a sale from Brickhouse Nutrition. Get that pulled up here. Celebrate Independence Day with an epic July 4th sale. Stock up on the best supplements from brickhousenutrition.com and save big. 25% off of everything with code FIREWORKS25. You can get Lean, their #1 weight loss supplement, packed with natural studied ingredients, no injections, just real results to help you slim down for summer. You can also try Field of Greens, the superfood drink so powerful they guarantee your doctor will notice your boosted health, or you get all your money back. They also have collagen peptides, which are another fan favorite, which will help with your hair and skin. So whether it's weight loss or your general wellness, Brickhouse Nutrition has it all, and our listeners can't stop raving about it. The sale is huge, but it's only here for a few days, so the products will sell out like they do every year. Don't wait. Head to brickhousenutrition.com. Use Fireworks25 for 25% off. Let's go big this 4th of July. brickhousenutrition.com. Stock up now. All right. Well, man, let's talk about the BBB. And no, I'm not talking about Build Back Better. I'm
You
talking
kind of
about
are.
I definitely am. I'm talking about the other BBB, the big, beautiful bill. There's a lot of drama, a lot of kayfabe, all surrounding a totally arbitrary Trump implemented deadline of July 4th, because it's not when we were running out of money. Like most of the time, they have this like urgent need to pass these bills and the late night debates and whatever. But yeah, it was Thursday, I believe, where they had the all-nighter. Hakeem Jeffries
Yes.
basically cemented himself.
Wait, no, Wednesday into Thursday, right?
Yeah, Wednesday night, Thursday morning, whatever.
Yeah,
He cemented himself as like African American history and lore as the longest ever House floor speech ever. So
yeah, well, he's the dollar store Obama.
Yeah,
and he just goes like that. By the way, though, I think that like the Build Back Better thing is more relevant than people are giving it credit for. I don't expect that the entire bill is Trump's bill. Trump had all his priorities into that bill, but I would suggest that the rest of it probably was the Build Back Better agenda that they had lined up and the funding of all the pieces of their agenda. And so now Trump has pushed this thing through, and he can use the power of the presidency to just strike all their stuff out of it.
I want to talk about that. And I know you have a clip from Bannon that I want to play, but a perfect example of this, actually, I'll give two examples. Two I've talked about on my show. One is the no tax on tips, no tax on overtime. That's no longer actually in there anymore because there's a cap on that. And whether or not, hardly anybody reaches the 25% or $25,000 in tips or whatever, doesn't matter. There are some tax on tips now, and there are some tax on overtime because of the caps that the Senate put in there. The other even better example, in my opinion, is the Planned Parenthood, because I've seen a lot of social media grifting from these senators and Congress people about we're defunding Planned Parenthood. Well, not really. The House bill had it in there for 10 years, okay? And somebody in the Republican majority Senate went in and put that down to 1 year. So Planned Parenthood cannot get reimbursements from Medicaid for a year. But after that, they're back to business as usual. And so it's like, why would somebody in the Senate who's grifting off of Trump's platform, which is that's all this is, put that in there? We don't know who put that change in there or why they put it in there, but they do this so that they can appease the base by saying they voted for the thing that defunded Planned Parenthood, leaving out the aspect of appeasing their lobbyists by letting it expire after 1 year, and then it's back to business as usual. So this is what the bill is to me. It's partly Trump's agenda, like you said. The other half of this is the swamp. It's them getting their cutouts for their their districts, their lobbyists, their special interests, all these, these bullshit programs that don't need to be part of our funding, but they are. This is how they do things. And they didn't have to, by the way, because they only needed a majority, right? If these people were truly MAGA or America First, they didn't have to do any of the bullshit that they normally do because they had the votes they needed. But they made it this drama. They weren't negotiating with Democrats. They were negotiating amongst ourselves, which is why we're going to get into the third party discussion here a little bit later. But anyway, do you want to get into that Bannon clip, or do you have any other comments?
Yeah, I think we should definitely get into the Bannon clip. As far as the process goes that people watched, I think that there is every reason to think that the Congress in the House and the Senate embarrassed themselves. The voting wasn't consistent by the people who were holdouts. They made it all look like a stunt at the end, and maybe it was a good guy stunt or not, but it's still a stunt. And if we're going to have a representative government, and I don't know that we are going to have a representative government, but if we are going to have that, then the people should actually care that the side that they are rooting for is also hoodwinking everybody.
Yeah, totally agree. And I just saw a comment in the chat. I don't remember who it's from, but they call me a Debbie Downer about this bill. and I love it when I get this comment because it's retarded. Here's the thing, guys. I'm pointing out facts that are in the bill. Like you can't argue. I can show you right here. Let me share my screen. It's not like I didn't put these things in the bill. I also didn't vote on it. I didn't get to choose the representatives in Congress either because our elections are fake. But it's none of this is my fault. I'm just pointing it out. And I get called a Debbie Downer for it. But this was the original House bill. Defunding Planned Parenthood or any company doing abortions would be prohibited from Medicaid reimbursements for 10 years. That was the House bill. The Senate bill changed it to 1 year. That's a fact. That's not me being a Debbie Downer. That's me being a realist. So you're being a cheerleader by calling me a Debbie Downer for not being like, yay, Bill.
It's so weird that people are so desperate about their side of the uniparty winning. Like so orange is going to defeat D, red is going to defeat blue. It doesn't make any sense. And the bill's already passed. We don't have to just say it's good forever. It's already there, right? So what are we going to do? We're not going to take, we're going to take away your win. And the funny thing is when we engaged with the next part of this topic, that concern goes away.
Yeah. 100%. And on Wednesday's show, we talked a little bit about this, like kind of do your critical thinking. You don't just have to say the bill is good because Trump says it's good. No. Just like when Trump, said the vaccine is good or whatever, took credit for the vaccine and all those things, told you to take the vaccine. How many of you in the chat didn't go out and take the vaccine? Most of you probably. You didn't. That's you using your critical thinking. Even though Trump's saying one thing and you doing the opposite, you can do the same thing with stuff like this with the bill. You don't just have to go along to get along. It's insane. And there are a bunch of bullshit things in this bill, which your Bannon clip here will point out, and how we potentially handle this.
Some, I think, commitments made on the executive order side about getting control of spending. As you know, we've been a big believer in impoundments. I think you're going to see rescissions, maybe pocket rescissions. The appropriations process, remember September 30th, the fiscal year ends. This whole appropriation process for fiscal 26 is where the rubber meets the road, and you're going to see another big fight because people are adamant we got to get the cost down here. And President Trump understands that. I think Russ Vought understands it. Russ Vaught's come up with a series, I think, of potential, at least partial solutions. This is why the big, beautiful bill, what you're seeing today and going to be voted on, and you got to embrace this, is the Senate bill. It's not the House bill. Nothing will be changed that came over from the Senate. Otherwise, it would have to go back and forth. There's a decision made. We're not going to do that because it could take forever. Decision was made about some, not changes, but actions that are going to be taken. I think you'll see these out of President Trump, the White House, Russ Vought, the Office of Management and Budget, to get tougher on cost cutting. So that will come out, I think, later.
That's great. I love Russ Vought.
Yeah. He seems awesome. But it really is this, the impoundment, rescission, line item veto. These are different tools. It's basically the same tool under different names. And it only makes sense for it to work that way. And so, of course, the system has inverted that and made it impossible to do any of those things. And what we have now is a situation where we are told that it's constitutional for the Congress to set up these executive branch agencies, determine how they're run, determine what it is they do, give them a budget for very specific things, and then have that agency just do whatever the Congress has told them. But the agency exists, gosh, can't talk, exists under the executive branch. And the idea that the president has to run an executive branch, an administration, the federal bureaucracy that is working in direct contradiction to the president's agenda, and that the president can't do anything about that, is absurd. You know, the founders would have never wanted it that way. And of course, that's why it is that way now. But I think that Trump is going to challenge in kind of all those avenues. And at some point, it's going to go to the Supreme Court. And at some point, the Supreme Court will rule that the unitary executive theory is just the obvious and only way the Constitution could have devised that office. There's not meant to be checks on the president's power within the executive branch. And the idea of independent agencies is nonsensical.
Yeah. So for impoundments and rescissions, I'm pretty sure, like you said, the process is the same, but essentially the president is like, okay, for impoundments, hey, I'm not going to spend this money. Congress has like 45 days or something to decide whether they agree. And if they don't respond or don't agree, then supposedly the president's supposed to send the money. Rescissions, I think he sends like a more formal request, like, hey, cut this money. And then it's the same thing, 45 days. And if they agree, then they vote it out or something. I don't know. But that's essentially it. He can go through line by line instead of doing the line item veto, which I think we did. Did we discuss that on Tuesday? Maybe Only Lands, I think.
We might have. I don't know.
Yeah, because he obviously didn't do that. He signed the bill as it was. But this could be a way for him to get control of some of that spending.
I think that the line item veto comes after a president signs a bill into law.
I think it's before, because he if he vetoes a bill, it would go back to the House, and then they can overrule it with I think, is it 2/3 or something? You know, us constitutional scholars here.
I mean, this is a pretty specific question.
Yeah. But I'm pretty sure it's before the signature.
Yeah, that would make more sense, I think. But yeah, okay. So this is, I mean, I just asked ChatGPT, and take it for what it's worth. But yes, that's the key constitutional problem with the line item veto, that the line item veto comes after the president signs a bill into law. It says Congress passes a bill, the president signs it into law. Then within 5 days, the president could cancel specific items like discretionary spending or targeted tax breaks. These cancellations would take effect unless Congress passed a disapproval resolution. And let me see.
The line item veto comes after signature.
Yeah.
That's
so. I mean, you know, if this answer is correct.
That is super interesting, because there's this big celebration. Everybody's like all in on the bill now, right? Like all the social media posts. If he does do that, which I have no idea if he is, but just game theory a little bit. If he goes through and picks out all the bullshit items in there and line item vetoes them after everybody's already like done their celebratory mark, like how is Congress going to go through and be like, no, I disagree with that. I disagree with that. I disagree with that. When,
well, they can fight it. Yeah. But the country's already on Donald Trump's side. So anytime he says, you know what, you guys are totally right, this bill costs way too much money, what rethinking? And then he just like takes red Sharpie to all the stuff that is coming in, all the pork barrel spending, as they used to call it, all that stuff that's coming in from the Uniparty, all the spending requests, all of the facilitation they were doing of the regime agenda being implemented, all that stuff can go. And, you know, throughout this process, we've heard Stephen Miller and Scott Bessent in particular speaking consistently about how this bill is actually going to save a lot of money. And all of the analysis in the normie sphere and even elsewhere was like, I don't see how it's going to save a lot of money. I mean, maybe it's going to do this or this, and this spending is calculated this way, but saving a lot of money, that doesn't sound right. You cross out all the bullshit, and it does, I imagine, save money. And then, you know, of course, we have the other part where the Congress and the Senate are illegitimate and don't really have the authority to control American spending at all.
Yeah. apparently Bill Clinton used line item veto 82 times in 1997.
Yeah,
canceling.
And then they had a lawsuit against the city of New York, and that's when the Supreme Court decided to do away with it. And who knows, man? I mean, we're talking about uniparty court system and a uniparty, and at that point, a pretty liberal court and a uniparty president. It seems like one of those things where it's like, let's find a lawsuit that can go all the way to the Supreme Court so that we can remove the line item veto from the Constitution forever. Isn't that such a weird thing to do? Like, the Constitution prescribes a way that it can be changed. It requires amendments. And instead they just, with judicial review on everything, which is a constitutional usurpation in itself.
Yep.
But then they just take it to the court and they can remove whatever part of the Constitution they want, as long as they have formulated a legal controversy in the proper way for the Supreme Court to rule on exactly that question.
Yeah, that's a great point. This week, I think, was it Montana that they had a law that overturned their abortion ban, essentially.
I didn't see it.
I think SCOTUS, I think this is the case. SCOTUS said that they weren't going to look at the case, but Thomas and Alito, they put out a message of like, we don't want you to think that us not taking up the case has anything to do with the argument. We just don't think this specific case is a good enough legal tool to fight it or change the law. Like, the legal argument being made, or for whatever reason, wasn't good enough, but the underlying argument, they were basically saying, we agree with you, we just can't rule in this favor because of how the case is formatted or whatever. I thought that was super interesting because it shouldn't work like that. Like, you shouldn't have to have the specific vehicle or whatever. If the argument or principle of the argument is wrong and needs to be changed, you should be able to change that. It's SCOTUS. So,
I mean, I don't think they should be able to change shit ever.
Well,
and I don't think that the president should have to abide by any of it. I mean,
I agree with you there.
We're an upside down world.
Oh, 100%. 100%. We haven't for a long time. That's why this stuff is so interesting. I would love to see Trump come out now that I especially know that it's like unconstitutional and SCOTUS ruled that line item vetoes aren't allowed anymore. I would love to see him come out and try to do it anyway.
It would be great on Monday if that's what this week's news cycle was about. And man, they're going to create chaos whenever something major happens for the other side. And we don't exactly know why this is major, but we've been given all the optics, all the stories, all the encouragement to understand this as a really major success and accomplishment. We don't see it yet, but that doesn't mean that there's not a next shoe to drop. And I think that there probably is. And maybe at that point, we can have something to celebrate.
Well, there has to be another shoe to drop, because if you take out the things that Trump campaigned on and wanted out of this bill and all the stuff they were talking about, there's like 10 key things, okay, in 847 pages. You take that, like the rest of that document, Trump didn't want. And there's negotiations going back and forth and all these things. Trump knows the bad parts of this bill, but he didn't care. He wanted his parts anyway. And he's talking about growth and all these things, but he still campaigned on reducing the deficit, spending down the debt, all these things, Doge, uncovering waste, fraud, and abuse. And this thing is littered with all that. And so how, like, it's a contradiction for both the things to be true at the same time. You know what I mean? So one of those things, which is going to be the non-Trump things, is going to have to be dealt with in some fashion, right? So however that looks, I don't know, but maybe we will find out this week. Who knows? Or long term, I don't know.
Yeah. I think that if you really play it out, like the scenario where I'm just, there's different levels of correctness to say that the Congress is fake and illegitimate. It is totally illegitimate. The people cannot prove that they were properly elected into office. None of them can. Okay. The Senate is not even selected in a constitutional manner anymore. They changed all these things, and we'll get into some of these changes. And so we can understand those basic levels of the body's illegitimacy. But if we really take the hard version of that, that means they can't actually pass anything into law. And so then we know this only as like a soap opera about a bill being passed. And it is an inevitability what that bill is going to be and what it's ultimately going to do. And then the entire rest of the conversation exists on a different layer than that. And all of that is the explanation to the public that everything is going as we've always told you. There's nothing to be upset about, nothing to see here. The government's just working as it does. You know, we came together at the last moment and yeah, we barely passed it. And it's all the Republicans' fault. But like, they didn't have a choice in the first place. You know, there was no way, if President Trump wanted the thing to be passed, that it wasn't going to be passed, right? There's no way.
No way.
Which means they didn't do anything.
Well, except they threw in their pork and stuff. That's what I'm saying. Like,
and that's the great part of it, right? So if he knows that they are this feckless and don't really have a choice, well, then you can either thwart them and tell everybody, hey, you know, these guys don't have a choice. I don't know what they're doing. Or you can just sit back, let them play it out, make all of their corrupt deals, all their backroom deals, telling their constituents, oh, don't worry, I'm looking out for you. I mean, Chip Roy and some of these guys that were arguing against the Build Back Better, or I mean, the big, beautiful bill. I call it that all the time, actually. The guys that were arguing about that, they're like, you know, we're really supporting the agenda that Trump ran on by opposing what Trump wants to do on this. It's like so stupid. They're like, we're actually a little bit more conservative than Trump is. We're going to execute his agenda a little better than he is. And that's what the establishment has told us for 10 years.
Yeah.
But they have nothing.
It's ridiculous how many different groups of people think they can mega better than the guy who created mega, essentially, right? Like the face of mega. They all try to out mega him, but they can't. And that's the stuff that is being exposed. And the only way that stuff gets exposed, guys, by the way, is by talking about it. The bad stuff in the bill, as I come across it, as I find, if I get bored and read through another couple pages and find something stupid, which I inevitably will, I'm going to talk about it. And that's not me dooming. It's not me being a Debbie Downer. It's me being a realist about the real stuff, the real fake stuff in the fake bill. Okay. So we're going to get into it, but let's maybe now transition to the result of this bill. Elon Musk was not happy at Trump. And whether or not this is kayfabe, I do want to have that discussion too. Mm-hmm. But he came out today, or maybe it was yesterday, he did this poll. Okay, no, I'll even pull this up. Elon Musk, hold for processing, did a poll on Independence Day saying, Independence Day is the perfect time to ask if you want independence from the two-party system, some would say uniparty system. Should we create the America Party? And I did think it was ironic that he created a poll with only two options, asking if we should have a third option in our election system.
That's funny.
Yeah, but then by a factor of 2 to 1, you want a new political party, and you shall have it. When it comes to bankrupting our country with waste and graft, we live in a one-party system, not a democracy. Today, the America Party is formed to give you back your freedom. Now, I posted this, and this is kind of what we're going to talk about. You can't fix a broken system by adding another layer to it. This isn't rocket science. But what was funny to me is the response I got, instead of anybody like forwarding any actual like critical thinking or just any furthering of the discussion, they're just like, you're an idiot. This is all kayfabe. Like it's all kayfabe, man. Like, can't you see it's kayfabe?
Like as if you don't have to learn the principles about the party if you recognize it being kayfabe.
Well, that's what's so stupid about that response. Like, okay, if this is kayfabe, which I'm not even making that argument one way or the other with what I posted. It could be kayfabe,
sure,
it might not be.
Let's just say it is.
Okay, if it's kayfabe, what's the point of the kayfabe then? Is he just doing it just to like say, oh, look at this, I can post things in opposition to Trump? No, if it's kayfabe, they're probably doing it to get people to respond in a way that is like, no, I don't want that. Like, no, that is a bad thing to do. Let's not do that thing. Or it's maybe to call out the entire system being fake in the first place. Mm-hmm. The one thing I doubt they want you to do is just be like, sit there and, oh, this is cool. Let's watch. Let's just watch what happens next. Let's just see.
Yeah. I mean, for the people who are kind of the hidden and obscured Trump haters out there, the sometimes Trump people, the people who have, They weren't on board in 2015. Then they were on board during the election cycle in 2016. And then they waffled for 4 years. And then they abandoned Trump and the entire thing after the 2020 election. And then they were anti-Trump for the next 3 years. And then all of a sudden, 2024, back to Trump again. And here we are, anti-Trump, right? So this sort of thing really does bring those people out. This also gives Elon Musk a way to present a counterpoint to the big, beautiful bill that gets everybody to talk about all the things they don't like about the big, beautiful bill. And then if Trump begins striking those things, well, the community, well, not even the community, the public en masse on Twitter has already had these discussions and already wanted all these things to be removed. And then Trump goes ahead and does it. Well, then he's not the heel anymore. He's the hero.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I haven't even thought about it like that. I just thought it was, well, we always talk about, how fake and fraudulent our election system is. And in my thought process, anytime we see this argument being advanced, like, oh, we just need another party that's going to fix things. Like when you have a broken, fraudulent system, trying to reform that system with like more bullshit, it's only going to give them more opportunity and make it easier for them to basically like steal more elections.
Yeah.
And so any argument, in advancement of that, and not just like, no, that's bullshit. This whole thing is bullshit. What are you doing? Like you're literally a rocket scientist, Elon Musk. You've said that the elections are fake, but now you're like, oh, we just need, more parties. And by the way, is the two-party system even constitutional? Because I'm pretty sure in my readings of the Constitution, there's no mention of Republicans and Democrats, two parties. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say that they're unconstitutional, but they are unwise. We should have 0 political parties. And if we think about the original Constitution and how they elected presidents, that's the only way it would make sense. They would have the electors in a state. People would elect their members of Congress. And then those Congress members served as the electors from that state. And they would they would cast 1 vote each for the person they wanted to be, or actually they would cast 2 votes each. And the person with the most votes would become the president, and the person with the second most votes would become the vice president. And so there were no parties. It was just, we're all Americans. We want the best thing for this country. We have some different ideas about how to get there. And we have these people we can select from. And so you've got 2 people that will probably largely represent almost all of America in overwhelming approval fashion. They're going to, if we elected all our congressmen and this happened in all of these states, the people would have their representatives representing their real interests because they know them on a local level. And then they can take that to Washington, D.C. and cast their vote for the person that their constituents would actually vote for. I mean, they're supposed to be representatives, and we have it totally backwards on this too. The congressmen go there and they're like, well, I'm really going to stand on my principles on this one. What principles? You aren't even elected. It's unbelievable that they think it's like their chance to go shine. Oh, I'm Thomas Massey. I'm going to show you guys that I'm a constitutional conservative and a libertarian. Oh, totally, dude. Totally.
Dude, but he did it with the rule vote the principled conservative, right? Starts yes. Halfway through, he switches his vote to no because that's the principled thing to do, and then switches it back in the end anyway. So stupid. But you're absolutely right. Like our system, the way it was designed, and in the original Constitution, whatever, could work. But the most important aspect, and the part that everybody just kind of like brushes off, is that the elections are fake. Yeah. Like the entire system. I'm totally on board, guys, too, with an entirely new political party. As long as it's not in the current system we have now with fake elections, none of it matters if our elections are fake. Doesn't matter.
Right.
So what's the point of even having the argument about another party? And because the Democrats and Republicans are all rhinos. I totally agree with all that stuff. The uniparty, Elon Musk's argument about the uniparty and everything, totally spot on. But it's because of the system we're in. Getting in a America party or whatever he called it, that's just going to be more uniparty bullshit. That's all it's going to be, and it's going to water down. It's going to make it even harder for actual America First candidates who run on the uniparty platforms to get in.
Yeah. Yeah. The third parties are just narrative devices to explain why elections went a way that no one would otherwise believe they went. If you can have a libertarian party, they tried it in 2016 with Gary Johnson. They thought that his presence in the race would take enough votes away from Donald Trump that it would help Hillary Clinton. And, obviously that didn't work in the story that we were told, but that's the purpose of the party. It's not because there are real votes chasing that party. And, the other thing about the constitutional scenario I was describing a couple of minutes ago, a lot of people have the reaction. They're like, well, that would mean that Trump was president and then Kamala Harris would be the vice president. Well, no, it doesn't mean that. It means that none of the electors would have ever considered casting an electoral college vote for Kamala Harris. It's ridiculous. There's Donald Trump, and then there's no one in second. It would be maybe like Eric Trump in second for real, because who would the people ever trust to represent us at that level right now? There's not another person out there that anyone in MAGA can actually trust, which is why we see people all day melting down when they're like, what do you mean you don't trust Chip Roy and Thomas Massey? Well, who do you trust? Well, I don't trust any of these people because I'm not retarded. They're on television lying to you. And you're like, well, you got to find some of them to trust.
It's funny. Actually, when I was at the house and touring, I ran into Chip Roy and I took a selfie with him, right. But I've been too embarrassed to fucking post it. I can't believe I took a fucking picture with this guy smiling. I was like, I'm ashamed. It's even on my phone, but you're absolutely right. So back in the day, they didn't have social media or TV. The people they would elect were people that they would actually talk to in person and get to know. And so they know that person was going to represent them. We don't have that anymore. We trust if there's a second person, dude, it'd be fucking JD Vance, because everybody's in love with JD Vance because that's who the Uniparty wants next.
Yeah, but the truth is, it probably would have been Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Oh, that's a good point too.
Far more popular than JD Vance.
Yeah, until the TV started telling them.
Well, yeah, I mean, but a lot of JD Vance fans liked RFK better than JD Vance, and JD Vance was kind of the same sort of thing. He was definitely not Kamala Harris. And also totally palatable to the uniparty right who's looking for the social approval of all of their liberal friends because they're trying to work their way into elite society. And so that is ultimately liberal society. And they're fine to be the edgy guy at the barbecue as long as they're only approaching the Ben Shapiro, Joe Rogan, Dave Rubin line. If they go over that, then the liberals start getting upset and then they can't advance in their social scene.
Yeah, I'm just reading about the two-party system now too. You're absolutely right about it. Probably would have been JFK. Can't imagine
JFK Jr.
Yeah, or John? RFK. Sorry. Oh my god. RFK Jr. And I just can't imagine G Money's head if that would have happened. But the first two-party election was 1796. Kind of started in 1790s with political disagreements, but 1796. And really, the way things have formulated since then, states have made it more difficult and kept it to the two-party system. You know what I mean? They make rules about the debate commission. You can't get on debate unless you're approved by that one commission, which Trump tried to go outside of, which I think is absolutely right.
Those are private corporations
exactly.
And the RNC and DNC are private corporations whose job it is to win elections
else too.
In our fake election system. And they work on behalf of corporations and global interests. And that's what people really have to wrap their heads around. That political party is not representing you. These congressmen are not representing you. They are representing global interests and they are marketing those interests to you. They're not asking you for your opinion so they can take it to systems of power and work for your benefit. They are selling you someone else's agenda.
One of the biggest problems with our government, and I talk about this a lot on my show, the lobbyist dollars, and I don't know how we'll ever, this is just like the election system. The people, we need to fix this aspect of things, or if we continue to operate in the this narrative battle space, whatever. Like, we're just going to fix things through the system. The people we're expecting to fix this problem, just like our elections, are the ones that are benefiting from it. But the lobbyist dollars in government are insane, and they're part of the problem. I don't know how we get to a place where it's actually totally grassroots and like limited. So like millionaires and billionaires, you know, you should be able to spend $100 on a political campaign, period. That's it. And that's for everybody. There's no businesses, no lobbyist dollars, nothing. Maybe that amount is too little. I don't know. But the amount of money in politics is just insane. And until we get rid of that problem, nothing we want done will get done.
Yeah. I mean, but again, the money in politics thing is all tied into the belief in elections. You know, everybody thinks that all this money is getting spent so that these guys can convince voters to go out and vote for them. All of that is bullshit.
Yep.
Like any political analysis at this point that is based on the understanding of elections as real should be immediately discarded. And the person making the analysis should be ignored. Like, I don't know how long we're just going to, you know, tread water on this bullshit. It's unbelievable that people are unwilling to let go of these past political habits. And to be perfectly honest, it's because we've been addicted to the political soap opera in the country. And we should, at some point, at least be able to admit that this is a very strange addiction where we're spending our lives learning the nonsensical minutia of made up stories that we saw on TV.
Yeah. I listened to some of your show. Great show, very long, but I got to the point where you were talking about, oh shit, what was I going to say? Oh, the midterms, the point about the midterms. Like, everybody's like, oh, this is such a good win for the midterms. We need to do this. Otherwise we'll lose the midterms, all these things. And I don't want to take away your talking point. So I think you should go into this, but it's such a good point because it's all fucking fake anyway. And the midterms are so far away, and nobody, our attention spans are so short that nobody's going to even remember this vote in 2 weeks, except for me reminding you guys about all the bullshit in there. Other than that, none of you guys are going to remember, let alone the midterms.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. And if they can always focus on the next election, well, you know, we got to do this because this fall, Virginia's going to elect a new governor. Okay, I guess you're right. We all got to fall in line because Virginia's going to elect a new governor. And then we got the primary cycle 4 or 5 months after that. And then another 6 months after that, we have the midterm elections. And so every few months, there's always an election cycle to concern ourselves with. Always this political thing where we all got to get on the same page. We all got to make sure to participate in the process as normies. Otherwise, you're not going to get the guy with the R next to his name. And if you don't get the guy with the R, oh man, the world's going to end. So crazy.
I thought we were told too that this time around for Trump, he doesn't have to worry about that stuff because he's not running for election. He's not running for office again. So why does he care about any of the elections at all? He just does his thing.
And what is the Congress doing for him? Zero things until this big, beautiful bill, which they had no choice about. And all the stuff they did is going to get cut out.
Hopefully. I mean, it probably will. I just don't know how.
Some of it, I mean, Bannon's signaling it. And if you think, I mean,
yeah,
I don't know what you think. I'm not going to ascribe beliefs to you, but I believe that Steve Bannon is high up in the information stream. He's near the head that flows into the river of political conversation that runs through our country. And he's giving advance notice on what's coming next. And the other side already knows what's coming next. They're telling stories to be able to block Trump's ability to do these things. You know, I had a Patty Murray video. Let me see if I can find this Patty Murray video.
Yeah. While you're doing that, I will say I totally agree with you on Steve Bannon. If you guys remember my part 23, some of the key players I listed, Rich Higgins, Derek Harvey, Ezra Cohen-Watnick, Steve Bannon is in there. He's part of the hit list squad. And then they branch out from there to some other key figures. One of those being Michael Ellis, who we'll talk about later. But totally agree, Bannon is the signal. And his point, what you talked about earlier, the impoundment and rescission stuff, we'll see in the coming weeks, but it's probably spot on. I don't know why it wouldn't be.
Yeah. Well, also, I mean, we would expect that Trump would do something exactly like that. And he wants these fights. I mean, these are issues that if we're going to have the form of government that we have. And if this is going to be like an unbroken chain where they just do everything kind of a little bit below the surface so that most people don't notice it, well, then even in the story sense, those Supreme Court issues have to be settled so that people understand what the Constitution actually exists to do. There's a lot of people out there like, oh, we're going to defend the Constitution. Okay, well, what does the Constitution say we're supposed to do for this, for this, for this, for this, for this? Like, I don't know, but the Constitution's important. Like, okay, well, if you can't actually go through these issues, and I'm not saying I'm an expert, like, but it's clear that everything we were taught about what the Constitution is not true. Okay. Yeah. The rules, the statutes, the court precedent, none of that is part of the Constitution. And most of it is anti-constitutional. And because we've been told and we've been raised to believe that all of that stuff is constitutional, we're actually going out and defending all the stuff that inverts the Constitution. And that is absolutely bonkers.
I totally agree. I saw a comment.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I saw a comment in the chat here about, okay, but if they lose the House, there'll be 2 years of impeachment BS. But a lot of the people that are like preaching, we can't, he has to do this certain thing because otherwise we're going to lose the midterms. They're the same people who think that, and totally possible that Trump stopped the steal in 2016. And, that's how he got in because they can manipulate the machines. He walked away on purpose. He didn't have to let him do that. I personally believe that part, not the 2016 part. But there's like this level of control over things, right? And so you can't simultaneously make the argument that, oh, we're going to risk losing the midterms because of this thing we're doing. But then also, on the other hand, say like we can control the elections and do whatever we want. That's how we got in this last time. Like those two things do not fit together.
Nothing can stop what is coming unless Chip Roy loses a fake election in 16 months.
Fuck Chip Roy, though. But yes,
not have a line item veto, much less a retroactive line item veto. Your notion of this pocket rescission defies common sense. And by the way,
wait. Okay, I was just gonna ask, what is this from? Russ, I'm gonna start this over. So was this his confirmation hearing or something different?
No, this is like 2 weeks ago.
Oh fuck yeah, this is great. Okay.
Yeah. President does.
I'm very happy I don't have a swear jar on this show. By the way, I have one on my Daily Herold show, but this one I've already topped my daily show swear jar.
Not have a line item veto, much less a retroactive line item veto. Your notion of this pocket rescission defies common sense and, by the way, the plain text of the law. Director Vogt, will you commit to this committee that you will not attempt to do an end run around Congress with this so-called pocket rescission, something members on both sides of this dais have made clear is outright illegal?
Senator, there's a lot of mischaracterizations into my previous comments. I would just say that we believe that we have, under the law, numerous options with regard to how to achieve savings, including rescissions that are timed at the end of the fiscal year. General Accounting Office has articulated that earlier in the life of the Impoundment Control Act.
This should be a yes or no, and what I hear you is all kinds of word salad to make sure that you are letting us know that you intend to do things that are outside the intent of the law. And it has also been reported that you are considering sending Congress a massive deferral package under the ICA in an attempt to run out the clock and avoid legal scrutiny of this administration's illegal freeze before ultimately impounding the funds at the end of the fiscal year.
I mean, they don't
know what the fuck they're doing. Do you understand that?
They know what's coming.
Yeah, they do. That's more signal, especially asking to vote.
Yeah.
Well, the second thing she said about I'm going to play this part just back a little bit.
That earlier in the life of the Impoundment Control Act.
This should be a yes or no, and what I hear you is all kinds of word salad to make sure that you are letting us know that you intend to do things that are outside the intent of the law. And it has also been reported that you are considering sending Congress a massive deferral package under the ICA in an
deferral package under the ICA. I don't understand. I haven't heard that. Deferral. Do you know what that is?
I'm trying to think of what the ICA is. Oh, the Impoundment Control Act.
Oh, which is what Bannon is talking about, impoundments.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, they've been trying to. By the way, for the audience, if you haven't watched Russ Vogt's interview on Tucker Carlson last year.
Solid.
It's great. And he talks at length about this particular subject. So this has been previewed now for a really long time. And I've been wondering, like, when is this fight going to happen? And I think that the big, beautiful bill is the setup for this fight.
I'm going to look up that
Tucker. It has to be this way.
I'm going to look up that Tucker Carlson Russ Vogt thing and see if we can find.
Yeah, just you can probably use the transcript finder and just go for impoundment, and we can hear that whole. Or I might just have a video in Telegram because I know that I pulled it.
Impoundment does not come up unless I'm spelling it wrong, which is definitely possible. Nope, I spelled it right. Did he do 2 interviews with them?
No, I think he did one like last September.
Yeah, impound is not working.
Hold on.
ICA maybe. What is that? OMB? How are intel agencies over the president?
This is weird. So this is November of 2024. And I'm trying to figure out what part. Gosh, man. I think it's in the. So Mike Benz, I'm seeing on Telegram, put up a video last year of the entire interview with Tucker. And he has, or maybe this is a Tucker Carlson repost. Yeah, it is. And so then he has the timestamps on these things. So it's some point after the 50-minute mark. And I can, if you read, if you take a break and do an ad, I can probably find this by the time you're back.
Okay. Well, let's do a quick little GART promo.
Coming August 14th to 17th, Badlands Media returns to Deadwood, South Dakota for the 9th stop of the Great American Restoration Tour. Come for family, friends, fun, and a f***ing good time. Hear truth bombs that hit harder than B2s on an Iran nuke site from Burning Bright, Chris Paul, CanCon, Red Pill 78, Brad Nabby, Ash, Ghost, Jordan Sather, John Herold, whoever that is, and more. Plus, Alpha might make you a sandwich. Deadwood is a gorgeous town in the middle of the Black Hills of South Dakota. If you've never been, you need to see it. Plus, you might be lucky enough to witness some terrible karaoke from your favorite Badlanders. Go to badlandsmedia.tv/events for weekend or one-day tickets. And if you can't make it in person, virtual tickets are available too. Watch from the comfort of your couch with tons of behind-the-scenes content and get access to an exclusive GART chat. That's badlandsmedia.tv/events. Be there or be there online. It'll be recorded.
Okay, I think I found it.
Did you?
Yep, it's
fantastic. It's around like 53 minutes, maybe.
Yeah, I have it at 52:57.
Great.
But I'm just interested as you've looked into the question of what authority does the Constitution bestow into whom?
No, and to give you an example, if you go on if you were watching news, you're going to have seen in the last 2 years ads saying oppose the Fed's regulations on capital, bank capital, right? Well, who are they supposed to call? They're not calling their congressman. Congressman has no power. The issue is like the call to action is against the Fed. Well, sorry, you're kind of out of luck.
What's the lever we would use to influence the Fed?
There is no lever, right? And so they have existed with this notion that they have this priestly ability to make decisions. And in fact, I don't actually think they're that good at it. I think people like President Trump are in fact better at it. And there's no reason that they should be exempt from the normal democratic process. And if Congress wants to come along and pass rules that says, this is how we want the money supply to go, all of that is in their purview. But I think, this is not some exception to the rule. Doesn't mean in any way that, President Trump has any interest in doing anything in this area. But I don't think it's the exception that proves the rule on independence being something that is important downstream to the CDC, the NIH. I think everything that people like Bobby Kennedy have been running on and others is about, no, you're not some priestly role. You are politicians yourselves. You just don't have to face voters, right? So independence is, I think, first and foremost. Number two,
here it is. This is
something that
of what?
Of empowerment.
Empowerment.
Yeah, it says empowerment. That's so annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so this number 2 section
is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
the ability to not spend money. For 200 years, presidents had the ability to not spend a congressional appropriation. That has always been the constitutional system. It had been brought. It had been a paradigm that had been brought from the UK and how we understood the constitutional principle is certainly power of the purse means that Congress gets to set the ceiling. You can't spend without a congressional appropriation, but you weren't ever meant to be forced to spend it, and it has become a floor. So 200 years, presidents are using impoundment. They get money for something. The president says, I don't think it's a good idea, or I certainly can do it better, or I have events that are happening overseas that cause me not to want to spend on the gunboat when I want to get some treaty done. All manner of executive decision-making that would be a part of that. In the 1970s, at the lowest moment of the presidency, Congress steps in, and to some extent the courts, and they passed the Impoundment Control Act, which was really the Impoundment Elimination Act. And from that moment, they had destroyed separation of powers on spending, on fiscal issues. But it was beyond that. It wasn't just about dollars and cents. It was about control of the bureaucracy.
So that law effectively meant the executive branch, the president's agencies have to spend every dollar they're sent by the Congress.
Correct.
Imagine being able to build anything just by thinking about it. Meet Base 44.
Sorry for that rude interruption. But this is so fascinating. And this is total signal right here, too. Remember, Russ Vought, I've written about him, too, in my series. He was in Trump's first administration as part of the OMB. So it makes you wonder why they didn't do any of this stuff the first time around. But here we are the second time around. Fascinating.
Also worth mentioning that Russ Vought spent the last 4 years as one of the, critical researchers on how the government would work in the next Trump administration. He was involved with the Project 2025 presentation.
Wasn't that like the second Mein Kampf book or something?
That's funny. Man, so he also used to go on Steve Bannon's show like every couple of weeks for that entire time. And he's been talking about these things for a while, which again is part of the reason why I say, look how far upstream Bannon is. He says something 3 or 4 years ago, and then you begin to see it like bubble up into the mainstream conversation. And now you have the critical moment where it's like, of course they're going to do this. This is what they've been planning to do the whole time.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Let's listen to more of this.
And I believe, as a budget guy, that was the original sin on why we can't do anything fiscally from that moment on. It's also why we get omnibus bills, because if I only need you to get your signature and I lose all of my ability to, throughout the rest of the fiscal year, to push and pull and not spend and make different decisions, I just got to get your one signature. So I'm going to put everything in that one bill, thousands of pages, and I'm going to push it through at the hardest time for you politically. You might have some diplomatic visit that you're going on.
Yeah, totally.
And so impoundment is vitally important, not just to save the country fiscally. It is vitally important to be able to wrest control of the bureaucracy, because when you combine Congress
think about, like, he's talking about the situation we're living through literally right now with the 1,000-page bill.
Mm-hmm.
And he's providing insight, like you're saying, of exactly how they're going to deal with that. This is fascinating.
The agency's vast authority to interpret the laws that they passed, overly broad, make law essentially that has no repercussions on the people who voted it, right? They don't have to vote on what the right blend is for ethanol.
That's right.
And then you say that your funding is going for Congress, and the president has no ability. Sorry, Mr. President, you don't have to that's illegal. You can't turn off my funding. Now Imperial Congress still exists, just a lot more subtle. So that's number 2, bringing back impoundment. Number 3 is dramatically going at restoring at-will employment as far as you can. A lot of ideas on the agenda, but
that goes it begins to go outside the scope of our conversation. But
agreed.
That is. That's it right there. He just laid the whole thing down.
Yep. I'm going to see if I can find any more on empowerment in here before we totally break away.
Impoundment.
Well, in here they call it empowerment.
Yeah, but that's just a transcript that misheard him.
Yeah, but that's what I'm searching to.
Oh, you're searching the video.
Yeah, just to see if there's anything else in there.
Gosh, sorry. I thought you were like searching on the internet. I was like, John, you're never going to find it.
No. No, yeah, that's it. So, but that's fascinating. I want to read the quote again too about the 1,000-page bill. That was so good. I'm not going to find it. Whatever. All right, thousands of pages. I just got to get your one signature, so I'm going to put everything in that one bill. Right, thousands of pages, and I'm going to push it through at the hardest time for you politically, which that wasn't for Trump, but Trump Trump created the urgency for the same old like they normally do. That's what's so fascinating about it. But yeah, the Empowerment Act, they're going to challenge it in court.
And think about how they push these things through. Always a National Defense Authorization Act, right? What are you going to do? Not take care of the security of the country, or like the government shutdown? What are you going to do? Let our federal park workers starve? It's like just the silliest shit to make sure that one bill goes through, and then they get their entire year of ridiculous spending, adding trillions of dollars onto the debt. Not that the debt and the deficit matter, and again, understanding that the debt and the deficit don't matter is like a critical part of the analysis here. And instead, what we have is everyone trying to prove their like very serious intellectual bona fides by being a normie about all this stuff. Well, guys, it's really important to be serious about this subject. You can't just go around saying that the debt and the deficit aren't real. Like, what are you going to do? Be irresponsible? It's like, dude, shut up.
And I totally agree with you. And understand the fiat's fake, the fiat system, the debt system, we're in all that bullshit. Totally agree. The only caveat I have for that is, so far, Trump is continuing to operate within that system.
Totally.
And if he's going to, if his plan is to defeat that system while participating in the system, I still don't know what that looks like yet. We don't know. Everybody always comes back with the rebuttal or the comment. And anytime I was pointing out this bill being an issue and raising the debt ceiling and all these things, even though Trump has signaled for going back to December, he wanted them to raise the debt ceiling, but they didn't. They did it this time around. So I know he wanted it, but still the principle of it to me is this is retarded.
Yeah.
The comment I'd always get is, oh, but Trump's just going to destroy the Fed. So we just got to raise up the debt as much as we can. Totally possible. But also that is pure speculation. We don't have a hint from Trump yet.
Well, I mean, I would say that the spending that is being signed up for now, at least in a narrative sense, and the same thing with the COVID spending in 2020, are hints in that direction. I would say that. I think you're totally right, by the way, to discuss the principles. It's still worth discussing the principles. In a normal situation, if the situation we were told actually existed, then it would obviously be important to be fiscally responsible when it comes to debt and the deficit. But that's not the situation we're in. Yeah. We're in the situation where we are at war with the central banking regime, where we do not have elected representatives because we do not have elections. They sign us up for all this spending, which is basically just tagging the debt onto our blood, our labor, and the rest of it. They don't have the ability to do that. All the debt is odious debt. We're at war with the bankers, and it's mathematically impossible to ever pay that debt back
100%.
In the first place. So to be concerned about that, the way Elon Musk was presenting, and again, fine, kayfabe, we can allow for that. But even if it's kayfabe, all of the other people agreeing with Elon Musk are not kayfabing. Okay. There's still millions of people in this country that can't wrap their heads around the things that we've just been saying.
Yeah. Here's my concern. Mm-hmm. It's almost like what comes first, the chicken or the egg? What comes first, fixing our elections or fixing the monetary system? Because there's so many things that are broken about the system we're in that we've allowed to become broken, not knowing or having access to the plan ourselves. We don't know what that looks like. We speculate all the time about possible paths forward, and every time Trump appears to want to fix things within the normie construct because the normies are too stupid to let us do it any other way. You know what I mean? That's essentially where I've gotten down to now with my feelings about the normies. And with that being the case, if he's doing it within the normie construct, like he has many things before, what does that look like? And I don't see how we fix the financial system while remaining in the normie construct if we don't fix the elections first. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense, I guess. Although we'll see, man, with this impoundment controversy that's gonna come up, and the people are gonna side with Trump and wanting all these things cut. So then it's gonna be very apparent that no one wants this stuff. No one's gonna fight Trump. No one's gonna hold it against Trump not to spend all that money. But Trump was never going to spend that money because none of those people are legitimate in the first place. And so, you know, that is its own explanation in the normie sphere. And I agree that it's totally connected to elections. I'm not sure that one has to come before the other, but it's also entirely possible. Again, we talk about this so many times, but it's entirely possible that we might not have elections anymore. And it's also entirely possible that elections and representation, the way we've understood it, is not the best way to be represented. You know, there might just be better ways for us to contribute our ideas. And we've talked about this before as well. If they indeed have all the information and they get all the data that flows in from our devices, wherever all of that is held and analyzed,
Palantir.
They certainly know, probably Palantir. They certainly know what the American people actually want. Yeah. Like they know the Democratic, and I mean small d Democratic view on absolutely everything. Okay. So they can enact the people's will at any point without any representation needed, because they are dealing with a depth of understanding of what we want in our representation, probably better than we understand it.
For sure.
You know, because ego, arguments with your family, arguments with your coworkers, like little personal pet issues, dude, that skews everybody's political thinking about so many things.
Oh, 100%.
It's absolutely bonkers, man. Like, for instance, the people who are totally obsessed with pro-choice, right? On the liberal side. That's their one issue. They care everything about that issue. And so because they believe that that's the most important thing, and that you have to get Democrats elected to protect women's rights to abortion, quote unquote, all of the other Democrat things, every issue, they will argue on behalf of that issue. You can understand where they're going to line up on every single issue just because they are so obsessed with that one issue. They'll just take all the stuff in and argue for every piece of it just to defend that one issue.
Yeah, we see that on both sides.
Sure.
By the way, 100%. And we even see it in like the communities we're in, you know? A lot of people will just defend Trump.
Yeah.
Even when he's conducting narrative warfare and doing things that we shouldn't be defending, just because they feel like they have to. But I want to go back to something you said there about, and I totally agree with you on this, that the people, you know, on Trump's side, behind Trump, running the devil op or whatever, Q plan, whatever it is, same thing, in my opinion. They are in control of more data than we can even fathom. They know us better than we know ourselves. And they do this feedback loop sometimes to kind of gauge us, whatever. But have we seen, this is the question for you, can you provide an example off the top of your head of a situation where they've implemented, you know, the mandate from the American people that they knew we want, but it wasn't what the mainstream was publicly running with, you know what I mean? And done so in a way that was overriding the norms. You know what I mean?
I don't know that there's any way to prove that an example actually fits that. Until it happens, until we know what the kind of how these things shake out in the final conclusion of this story, whenever it is that it wraps up. But that said, I think that Donald Trump in his communications will often start taking a controversial position on one side or the other. Usually it's something that the Democrats are going to hate, but sometimes it's something that the conservative establishment is going to hate. And then they all get mad at Trump, and the Democrats pile in this direction. And then Trump goes the other end. And then the Democrats have to reject it by themselves shifting. And all the conservatives who got upset like, well, now they can't be upset at Trump for this anymore. And so I think that he switches from one to the other once he understands that the conversation has reached a certain point. And those things are all things you could track with data in terms of the messages people are sending, in terms of social media content and the rest of it.
A good example of that.
I think that's an example, but
a good example of that recently, what you just said, is the illegal immigrants, but like farmers, if they vouch for them, you know, then that's good. You know, just scouts honor from the farmers. If they want their illegal immigrant to stay, you can, if you want to keep your illegal immigrant, you can have it. What's
like
Obama saying?
If you like your illegal immigrant, you can keep them.
Yeah, there we go. Love that. It's new campaign slogan. But that's what he just said in Iowa. Like, he made a complete switch. They're coming up with legislation now, and that's what they're going to have.
Yeah, and then people lose their minds.
Yeah.
And sometimes it takes 10 cycles of this. And we get reruns every 3 months for years, so that the American public finally gets the right position on these issues. And, you know, I wrote about this in the Peter Thiel piece I wrote last week, but you can sense the direction that everything is going. And this is one of the things that I paid attention to for this entire time. And it's something critical that guides my analysis. You know, there are all of these views that were seen as fringe views a decade ago that are now just totally acceptable in the mainstream conversation, if not already achieving consensus in the other direction. And these were like 3%, 5%, 10% issues on like the quote unquote far right extreme, but it's basically just the extreme that is opposite of the regime agenda, you know, and we've seen the country gravitate in that direction on the entire range of issues. There's no issue in the country I can think of where people are going in an anti-Trump direction. It's not like the momentum is gathering in the other direction. You know, there's not some movement that's like moving us that direction on abortion, you know, the issue we just mentioned a couple of minutes ago, or on immigration. There's not a more powerful argument for open borders being made.
Well, Elon Musk now as a third party, because, you know, that's where the momentum is, which we could talk about that.
He also argued for H-1B visas too. So the immigration thing, he tried that and it failed. Yeah. And again, could be kayfabe. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Totally could be kayfabe. But this, we could talk about, this is an example, kayfabe or not, of people trying to out the mega master with Trump. Like, you're going to create a new party that is more mega than the party Trump's in control of, within a fraudulent fake two-party system, whatever. I just think it's interesting. But yeah, man, I think you make some great points. We're in for some interesting times. If Trump is going to do the impoundment control thing based on the original writing of the law, it's within 5 days, right? Yes,
I think that was for the line item veto.
Yeah. Okay, I guess that's the line item veto. The impoundment thing can be different. Yeah. But yeah, we'll see. That he's totally going to do it now. Like, now that I rewatched that one section from Bo, it's going to be so interesting.
And that's really ultimately the thing, man, because if you understand the president's veto power, well, then the president has the ability to say to Congress, okay, well, if you're going to force this thing to stay in, then I'm just going to veto the entire package and just keep sending it back to them until they send up the package without the thing the president wants to line item veto. And you could do that in endless iteration, like an endless number of iterations, however many it takes to get rid of all that stuff. And it's funny because the Congress needs the spending bill to be passed. Trump, whatever he's doing behind the scenes, certainly doesn't need Congress's approval to spend the money he needs to spend to close the border and deport people and the rest of it.
And he showed that already. Like, we've had 2 months, we're told, you know, whether or not the numbers are even real, whatever. We've had that discussion, but we're told that he doesn't need the budget that he just got from Congress to enforce illegal immigration. We have alligator Alcatraz now. You think they need more money for deporting illegals? No, we're doing just fine, but it's in there anyway. Yeah, I do want to get on. We have a couple more subjects that we were going to get to, and we've been killing it, in my personal opinion, with the discussion we're having anyway. But I want to get to a couple of Trump's recent
Let me say one last thing that takes 10 seconds. I think, we were talking about Build Back Better at the beginning. I think it's interesting that they took it from BBB, Big Beautiful Bill, to OBBB, like One Big Beautiful Bill, and started branding it as the One Big Beautiful Bill, so that like history will record these things as different. And I think that's pretty funny.
Well, and they must have changed that at some point because
it's just, I feel like it's in the last couple of weeks.
Well, because Schumer, he did that like little spiel where he got the Big Beautiful Bill removed. And so it must have been after that, I bet.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Somebody put in my chat the other day that in one of the episodes of The Apprentice, he sent one of the apprentices or multiple to who he called his good friend Chuck Schumer.
What?
Yeah, apparently. I don't know. I'll look it up while you set us up for the.
Yeah, so I do have a couple clips. Let's start with the one where he once again says, I thought I had it pulled up, but I didn't. If you were to think back to it was 2023, he was telling the story about Iran, right? And we talked about this the day after the Iran attack. And Trump comes out and is like, yeah, well, here's the thing, guys. Iran told me that they had to retaliate and basically gave the game away. And then during the Israel-Iran situation, they were publicly posting about how both sides were telling each other in advance about their attacks. Like the whole thing is stupid. But Trump in Iowa says the same thing again about Iran giving a heads up before they bombed our bases in Syria.
They called me to tell me they have to take a shot at us. This was Iran, very respectful. That means they respect us. Because we dropped 14 bombs, they said, we'd like to take 14 shots at you. I said, go ahead, I understand. They said, where they'd do it. I said, good. We emptied out the fort. It was a beautiful military base in Qatar who treated us really fantastically well. And they said, sir, 1 o'clock, okay? I said, it was fine. We could make it later. And we had nobody but 4 gunners. We had 4, they call them gunners, and they shoot the Patriots. They shoot the missiles up. It's hard to believe. So all of a sudden they said, we're ready. And they were a little nervous about doing it, I want to tell you. Can you imagine? They were nice enough. This is Iran to call me and tell me that they would like to shoot me at 14 times. So they want to shoot us. And I said, go ahead. And they shot 14 high-grade, very fast missiles. Every single one of them was shot down routinely by these 4 unbelievable gunners. And they did their job, and that was the end of that. But the big thing was the attack on their nuclear facilities, what those people did. And
which we gave them a heads up about.
Yeah.
The whole thing is so silly. So silly. He's like, they're admitting to conducting irregular warfare. The whole thing's insane.
Yeah. But I mean, it's great because that tracks 100% with what we've been talking about for months.
For sure.
Yeah.
Another thing that tracks 100% with what we've been talking about for months and maybe even years, you might say, is, by the way, happy 4th anniversary to the Devolution series. That was on Wednesday. But here's another comment Trump made about Space Force.
And one of them is going to be really great. It's called Space Force because that was my baby. Remember, they wanted to terminate it. First year of Biden's administration, they wanted to terminate Space Force, and the military wouldn't let them. And it's turned out to be one of the most important things. I was very proud of that Space Force, and they're doing great.
What he just said there is so insane in any other circumstances. Like a president wants to terminate anything in the military. He's the commander in chief, and the military's like, nah, fuck that. We ain't let you do that. What else could that possibly mean, guys?
Biden was never president.
Bingo. Biden was never president. And then we got this. So I got to go back to True Social quick. Hold on. Because Trump the other day posted about a phone call he was going to have with Putin. I'll scroll back a little bit. I didn't have this ready. Another thing I wasn't prepared for, but I think it was on the 4th.
The conversation would have been on Thursday morning, I think, on the 3rd.
Okay, I gotta be getting
because it was definitely Thursday, and it was like 10 a.m. because initially they were saying that there was going to be a signing ceremony, or that the vote, whatever, there was going to be a press conference at 9 a.m. and then it got delayed because Hakeem Jeffries wanted to talk forever.
Yeah, so here it is. We'll be speaking to President Putin of Russia at 10 a.m. Thank you. Didn't thank us for our attention, but just said thank you. Very polite of him. But here's the thing. Every time Trump says this, at least every time he's done this recently, he'll follow it up with the full breakdown details of the conversation. We talked for this many hours. We spent this long talking about the war in Ukraine. We talked about economic stuff. We talked about all these things. He's done that multiple times. Okay. We got no follow-up post from Trump about his conversation with Putin, but then we did get somebody asking him, and I'm going to say this again, I said that on my show, if there was any law that our government needs to pass, it's that you are not allowed to do interviews outside the jet engine of an airplane because it's so damn loud and you can hardly hear anything. But this is what Trump said about his call with Putin.
We had a call. It was a pretty long call. We talked about a lot of things, including Iran. And we also talked about, as you know, the war with Ukraine. And I'm not happy about that. I'm not happy. No, I didn't make any progress with him today at all.
Made no progress. Didn't compliment Putin for how hard he is to negotiate. Like totally different from his normal presentation of Putin and his calls with Putin. Even just a foreign leader in general. I thought it was interesting. Don't know if I have any other commentary to it. Just notable.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how to take that. I can't imagine that they got nothing accomplished on the phone call.
Yeah.
They did talk about a film exchange, Russian films being sent to America and American films being sent to Russia. And I think that could be really cool.
What, really?
Yeah. That's how I read it the other day. I mean, I didn't spend
movies,
a lot of time on it, but yeah.
We weren't getting Russian film. Like they had no access.
I don't know. I mean, if I've ever seen a Russian film, I'm not sure what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would say the same thing. I just thought that's how it worked. Like I just assumed they didn't make good movies or something.
Yeah, isn't it weird that we're like convinced to believe that the United States is like the only place that makes movies? I mean, the Germans made a lot of movies in the lead up to World War II, and they had famous actors and actresses. And I always used to think that was funny because so many people that I knew in Hollywood, it's like, you guys think that you're heroes for going all in with this political movement. You know, in 10 years, you're just going to be the good Germans. You're just going to be the Nazi propagandists that history has known as villains.
Yeah. And that's become true.
Yeah. So,
one more quick thing I want to point out. This story came out, and maybe this isn't that big of a deal. I just thought it was interesting. They're starting to say Russia becomes first country to recognize Afghanistan's Taliban regime. Will China follow? But the story is they're actually like negotiating, working with, and all these things with the Taliban specifically. I thought it was notable because of the Doha Agreement. And within the Doha Agreement itself, they do say like the United States wants to make clear that we do not recognize the Taliban as an official, government. That was back in February of 2020 when that thing was signed. But the way that the Doha Agreement was implemented under the Biden administration was a big Devo proof, in my opinion. Like you're gonna very similar to us, essentially Israel bombing Iran and all these things. Like you're using the Iran nuclear deal, right? This agreement, you're implementing it by executing a narrative play on another country or your target, whatever. That's what the Doha Agreement was. They implemented the terms of the Doha Agreement while executing a narrative play on the Biden administration, making them look like fools, leaving all this military equipment there, which was essentially part of the deal for the Taliban to be fighting ISIS in the region. So I just think it's interesting that this is now starting to become a thing where multiple other countries, especially ones that we think might be working with Trump and everything as part of this sovereign alliance, they're now recognizing this group of people that Trump implemented a deal with first.
Yeah,
so,
I'm totally with you. That sounds exactly right.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Okay, last thing I wanted to discuss is this post from Paul Sperry about Michael Ellis. I just got to find on my timeline. Okay, and this goes back. I could probably provide some context. The DNI Ratcliffe the other day. Did you see that he came out? Or not DNI, head of the CIA.
Mm-hmm.
He came out and posted with this report. Essentially, the CIA went back. We talked about this quite a bit on Wednesday's show, but the CIA went through what Brennan and the intelligence community did during the 2016 election surrounding the Russia collusion hoax, and they came out this report, 8-page report, something like that, and outline all the mistakes they made and the how they broke away from intelligence community, I don't even know what to call it, like basically norms maybe is the right way to do it. And the whole thing was pretty damning, I would say, against Brennan and the intelligence community, especially considering what we know now after the Durham report, all these things. But then Paul Sperry comes out and says, developing U.S. intel sources tell me CIA Director Ratcliffe's deputy Michael Ellis attempted to minimize John Brennan's criminal conduct by focusing in a new 8-page after action review on process. He types so weird. Process anomalies plus tradecraft errors during the crafting of the Russia intelligence assessment. Essentially putting Michael Ellis is like a bad dude. He tried to minimize this report. So if you guys have watched the DPH, repeatedly over the years, you'll probably know who I'm talking about, but I have a source who knows Michael Ellis personally. And I hate even calling a source because I hate people who say they have a source, but I know somebody who knows Michael Ellis personally. I texted him. I was like, hey, is there any truth to this? Is this something Michael Ellis would do? And he's like, hold on, I'll get back to you in a minute. And then an hour later or something like that, he calls me and he's like, yeah, man, that's total bullshit. And heavily implied that I think he spoke with Michael Ellis personally, but he's like, there's no way this guy is top notch, worked closely with him for years. This is not like him at all. He's got a target on his back because of the good things that they're doing within the intelligence community. Okay. Out. The reason it's so interesting to me though, is Michael Ellis himself. If you go to my part 23, where, we talk about the hit list squad, and I'm going to pull up Ellis's name here.
Can you go back to the tweet? I just want to read one more thing again.
Okay.
I don't mean to cut you off, but I feel like we're going in a different direction. So Ellis was focused in this 8-page after action review on process anomalies and tradecraft errors during the crafting of the Russia intelligence assessment. And Michael Ellis is accused of minimizing the importance of this.
No, minimizing John Brennan's criminal conduct.
Right.
He minimized the conduct by instead focusing on
process anomalies and trade.
Yeah.
Have you read that report? Because I would guess
in detail. Yep.
Oh, you have. Okay.
Yep.
So do you agree with his assessment of what Ellis's focus was? And then the second part of the question would be, within the process anomalies and the tradecraft errors, was there anything that really stood out? Are they directing at a particular part of this thing is what I'm asking.
So on Wednesday's show, I had the highlights up, but I had actually, you know what? I might be able to pull up my PDF. Well, this is fine. This one doesn't have my highlights on it, but I went through and there's 11 different sections I highlighted. It was fully focused on tradecraft and how they did things differently. But there's one thing that stuck out to me. I mean, a couple things. But the biggie was this one here. Because if you remember the Russia collusion hoax and the timeline around it, the Steele dossier was being formed. I think it was early July. July 5th was when they first started circulating the rumor. WikiLeaks released their report July 22nd of 2016. Not the report, the DNC hacks. They released all those emails. And then 4 days later is when we're told Hillary Clinton officially approved the plan to vilify Trump by, saying that he was colluding with Russia. The 27th, or no, sorry, 26th was Hillary Clinton. The 28th was when John Brennan goes and talks to Obama in the White House office and is like, yeah, Russia's trying to interfere in the election. We need to come up with this fusion group to come up with this thing. And then his handwritten notes say that on August 3rd, just 4 days later or whatever, they had another meeting at the White House with all the key people, Comey and them. And that's like his handwritten notes confirm that he like told all of them there about Hillary Clinton's plans. But sometime between the 26th, when Hillary Clinton approved it, and the 28th, Brennan apparently found this report, in my opinion anyway. This is central to the judgment that Putin aspired to help Trump win, was one highly classified CIA report. Brennan had tightly restricted access to this information within the CIA. It had been collected in July. That's why I'm focusing on that, but not disseminated in CIA serialized reporting until the week of 19 December. So I think like they did focus on certain things, but there's key things you can take away from this report. And I think this is the big one, is there's a classified report out there that Brennan found somewhere or got from somewhere saying that Putin was trying to help Trump, but he didn't know about any of the Hillary plan until at the earliest, the 27th. And then the 28th, he was meeting with Obama. And so I think they fabricated this whole fucking report or something. And I was like, I posted on Twitter that I think Ratcliffe should release this thing. So no, I disagree with what Sperry is saying. I think they're going back through this stuff because one, they're trying to keep it in the narrative, like the normie mind. And two, like if we are witnessing some sort of bigger RICO case, right? It's even much more interesting that Michael Ellis is at the CIA, was participating in this review based on his previous role in Trump's first administration. And like, it's just weird, man. Like, were they going back through and trying to collect more evidence and putting this out? I don't know. But if you look at what Ellis did before, Ellis was helping with he was working with Ezra Cohen-Watnick on the unmasking stuff. He's the one who helped find the stuff to give to Devin Nunes, which was Kash Patel, right? Several current American officials identified the White House officials as Ezra Cohen-Watnick, the senior director for intelligence at the National Security Council, and Michael Ellis, a lawyer who works on national security issues at the White House Counsel Office. They're the ones who were proving the unmaskings from Obama and Obama administration people. So that's number one. Michael Ellis goes on. The last few years, he's been working at Rumble, and now he's back at the CIA. But last minute thing, if you guys remember this, hold on, let me find it. I gotta go to the next section here. Hold on. Because at the very end of Trump's administration, here it is. Christopher Miller tried sneaking him into the NSA. Do you remember this story?
Wow.
Acting Defense Secretary Christopher Miller ordered the director of the NSA to install on Saturday a former GOP political operative as the NSA's top lawyer, according to 4 Individuals Matter. He was like nominated, but Nakasone was like delaying his appointment. And then finally, Chris Miller was like, no, you're going to fucking put him in that place right now at the very end. And Nancy Pelosi like threw a fit over this.
Remember when we were researching Nakasone, trying to get to the bottom of that like 6 months ago or something?
Yep.
And I was like watching Nakasone interviews. I think one of them was with this reporter, Ellen Nakashima.
Really?
One of those, yeah, one of those conferences. I'll see if I can find it.
Yeah. And then I do want to go to this post too from Ezra Cohen-Watnick. I'm pleased to see that President Trump has appointed my former colleague, Michael Ellis, as CIA Deputy Director. He's a very competent attorney who understands the intelligence community. Michael faced illegal behavior from the likes of Paul Nakasone, the J. Edgar Hoover of our time. He is committed to making sure no one is subjected to the treatment he himself experienced.
Wow. What does it mean to say the J. Edgar Hoover of our time? Didn't J. Edgar Hoover basically just have all the information on everyone and use it to blackmail them? Maybe I'm not correct in the history. That's just my impression. I've never spent much time on him.
I don't know. Let me see if I can find. He was found to have routinely, later in life and after his death, Hoover became a controversial figure as evidence of his secretive abuses of power began to surface. He was found to have routinely violated both the FBI's own policies and the very laws which the FBI was charged with enforcing, to have used the FBI to harass and sabotage political dissidents, and to have extensively collected information on officials and private citizens using illegal surveillance, wiretapping, and burglaries. Hoover consequently amassed a great deal of power, was able to intimidate and threaten high-ranking political figures. Apparently that's Nakasone, according to Ezra Cohen-Watnick. But let me find. This was back on January 18th of 2021. Pelosi demands acting Pentagon chief halt his order to NSA to install Trump loyalist as general counsel. House Speaker Pelosi is demanding Chris Miller immediately cease his plans to install Trump loyalists at the NSA's general counsel, calling the move highly suspect and arguing it represents a disturbing disregard for our country's national security. I ask you that you immediately cease plans to improperly install Michael Ellis as the new NSA General Counsel. She was also calling for a probe into the circumstances of the NSA General Counsel's selection process by the department's acting inspector general. That might have been Storch at the time. Wasn't Storch at the NSA?
I'm not going to remember that timing. That's all you, buddy. By the way, it was Ellen Nakashima. I just found the video and sent it through. Not a big deal, but you know, the fact that she's writing that letter and seems to have at least some alignment, if nothing else, with Nakasone.
Yeah, and Storch was the IG for the NSA at the time of this. But that is interesting. Whenever you see coordination between mainstream media and the intel community in general. But yeah, so they were like worried about this appointment, and as soon as he got in there, he was let go, like fired, like most Trump people were. But there was a big fight, if you remember back then, about his appointment to the NSA. What was he doing there? Was he gathering intel? Was he gathering information? Why were they so scared about it? And yeah, and now he's back in the IC at the CIA, and they're again putting a target on his back. So I thought that was notable. Thank you for your attention to this matter. That's all I got.
That's not all
unless you got anything. What?
Wait. You know what? I wanted to talk about one more thing with Elon Musk, and I had totally forgotten about it. And we should bring up maybe a couple of Nick Land quotes from this past week. So Elon Musk started following this week in terms of the third party stuff. He started following both Andrew Yang, who was the candidate in the 2020 primaries. He was the Asian dude trying to become the Democrat nominee. He was the guy that was for universal basic income. He would go on all the intellectual dark web podcasts and talk about UBI and automation and how everybody was going to be out of a job and that people would just need money and they were going to tax Amazon to get it or some shit. I don't know. So that was one of the guys. Andrew Yang was also one of the key people thinking of starting the Forward Party, the third party that was going to put a candidate up to go against Trump in the 2024 cycle. And Elon also went and followed Curtis Yarvin, who we've talked about a few times. He's a very influential thinker when it comes to people like Peter Thiel and J.D. Vance. He is very much a proponent of these kind of very small corporate city states where their government is totally internal and people basically take part in these societies, paying their money in for like a range of government services because that's the sort of place they want to live. And he allows for this patchwork of different ideas all over the place. Now, whether or not that's going to happen, I don't know. I think it probably is to some extent, and it definitely already is happening to some extent. I think also it's worth understanding that corporations actually like own our cities as well. And I'm talking about big ass corporations decide even what news makes it out of various urban environments in the country. And it's important to understand that. So Musk followed Yarvin, which indicates, and Yang, which indicates a certain political direction. Now, Elon just might be a Judas goat for the entire technocracy. And I could believe that. And I could believe he's just doing kayfabe as well. Fine. But he is taking all of those people and moving that new party to exactly where they planned to go, which was the alternative that smart wannabe elite America actually cares about. It's not this crazy thing on the left. It's not that MAGA thing with all those offensive people, the racists and anti-Semites, and they can't explain any of it. Why Black people and Hispanics are voting for Trump and why Trump is the greatest president of all time for Israel, but also we're just all hateful morons, right? So they have this other option that they want to eventually present, the Bill Ackmans of the world, all the people in that, tech oligarchy that aligned with Trump to use him as a vehicle. And now they get to splinter off and do their own thing. So that's a very real motivation. It makes sense that Elon would want to go in that direction. And if he was actually aligned with Yang and Yarvin and those tech oligarchs, all of this would be exactly what you would expect to happen. So looking at it that way is really interesting. And then the other thing is, Yarvin is credited along with the philosopher Nick Land of starting this Dark Enlightenment thing. And the Dark Enlightenment is sometimes credited to Donald Trump as his motivation, that it's all going in this direction. And Yarvin may very well be going in that direction, but Land, who's also credited with starting the Dark Enlightenment, is not going in that direction. And he seems to continue going further from that direction. Like he posted a couple of days ago about how secular history is fake, and essentially people who are operating within this old system and the old mindset don't understand that history is the fake news of a former time. Like we are reading fake news from 60 years ago or 100 years ago and thinking that all of that is definitely true. And that's insane. And at the end of the post, he actually noted that Curtis Yarvin has gotten lost because he makes that exact error. And so that's something I've been saying for months. And I'm just stoked that Nick Land agrees with that, because I think that he is one of the very few people out there that is actually observing this moment correctly.
That's very interesting. The fact that Elon Musk wasn't following Andrew Yang before, too, I don't know why that's sticking out to me, but that in the timing of this new party.
Does he repost Yang a lot?
I've never seen. Okay. It just seems like somebody he would be following. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's interesting. Is Nick Land on Twitter?
He is.
But
his account is Xeno Cosmography, XENO Cosmography. And he's a fantastic follow. He's actually got a better sense of humor than I ever recognized. And he had another just 10 out of 10 tweet this past week talking about how I don't remember if he said progressives or the left or whatever. I think he probably said progressives. He was remarking about their ultimate goal of all their policies is to get the maximum number of people to want to kill them.
Oh yeah, that was so good.
The end of all of, if they got their way about everything, then so many people would just outright hate them.
I want to see how often
they've made society. Let me see if I can find it.
Elon's greatness is partly attested by the fact that the term crash out has been coined basically just for him. It's like cesarean section in that way. That's funny.
I'm going to find this.
Of all the things that should be effectively ignored, we can't do anything great until all our grubby retarded shit is properly sorted out. Should be ignored most. Your grubby retarded shit will never be sorted out unless as an unplanned side effect of attained greatness. But we probably wait for the normies. I don't know if the normies would agree with that take.
He's a good time and a good follow. And I would suggest to everybody it's worth your time to read Xeno Systems. And it's kind of there is some dense philosophical jargon in there, and that's not always the most pleasant read, but brilliant guy seeing something that goes well beyond what a lot of people are observing.
Mega without Elon is like capitalism without schizophrenia, but I guess that's an inside joke.
He has interesting views on capitalism, just as a naturally occurring phenomenon that cannot be stopped, really. I sent over the tweet in question.
Okay.
Upon finding it in my Telegram feed.
Progressivism is the attempt to realize a society dominated by people who want to kill progressives. Confusing, I know, but it makes sense emotionally. That's so good.
Makes sense emotionally.
That's solid. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, with that, man, I say let's see if we got a studio ad, which it looks like we do. A little 1775 coffee, and then we'll get to the rants.
Sounds good.
If you still haven't tried 1775 coffee, I don't know what the hell you're waiting for. Now's your opportunity, guys. They still got a little left in their 1,000-unit starter kit, 1775 starter kit. You're getting the bold dark roast that hits harder than a CNN fact check, the smooth medium roast, and the Vitality mushroom coffee for clean energy and laser focus with no crash. All single origin, small batch, toxin-free and mold-free. Plus, you're also getting a gold spoon clip because freedom isn't scooped with plastic, a frother strong enough to stir up your coffee and your mother-in-law's political opinions, and a black 1775 tumbler that says, I don't take life advice or caffeine from a woke sea witch. $170 worth of coffee and gear, yours for $99. This is for those of you who've been watching 1775 coffee blow up on Rumble, wondering if it's actually worth it. Spoiler alert, it is. Go to 1775coffee.com/studio and grab your starter kit before they're gone. Bold beans, clean fuel, and a morning routine that stands for something just like Rumble does. And so why don't you guys also do us a favor, just a favor, not a directive here, but hit that thumbs up. We'd greatly appreciate it if you would do that. And also, as I've been saying the last few weeks, Rumble is implementing this new, we're part of the creator program. And in there's this new thing we need to do is where we need unique chatters. And so if you're a lurker, we would appreciate it if you just come in and say hi and maybe, come back more often as well. We have a great chat going. So
yeah,
hit the thumbs up, come say hi. And with that, we'll get to the rants. And also we need an outro video. So I don't know if you got any ideas.
Maybe we should do the Chuck Schumer on The Apprentice.
Yeah, let's do that if you can find it.
Yeah. I sent it through.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. It's that YouTube.
The
top one.
The top one? Okay, at 10:55 there?
That is it. Wait. What do you mean?
Schumer's Apprentice praise of Trump goes viral.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. I'll get that queued up and we're ready to go. All right. Rants. Ty, 12 Indie Boy. Nice to see you, man. I just saw him in Florida. Spent some good time with him. Hung out. It was great.
Nice.
I missed Wednesday's DPH Live, but wanted to say happy 4-year anniversary. It legit changed JC and my life for the better. See you in Deadwood. That's what I like to see. Devolution, making people fall in love. That's what it's all about.
That is what it's all about.
Deborah Stars. John, I would still love
what, John? You should make t-shirts that say Devolution is for lovers.
Totally
you know how they have Ohio is for lovers kind of thing? Yeah.
I'm totally doing it. I got to write that down or just for somebody remind me after. That's such a good idea. And I also need to make a t-shirt out of if you like your illegal immigrant, you can keep your illegal immigrant. Got to do that one as well. Yeah. Deborah Starr says, John, I would still love to tell you the Bunker Buster story. The one thing I haven't done yet since I've been back is catch up on my emails, but I'm doing that after Tuesday when I don't have my kids. So I have my kids through Tuesday, and then I'm catching up on the rest of the emails that I haven't gotten to yet. So I will get back to you and hear that story. Thank you, Deborah. 1027 JS says, hello all. Good to see you, Joe. My fellow North Dakotan. Angie K. John, SCOTUS just ended PPH, Planned Parenthood. They determined the states can cut all funding off, state Medicaid and Medicare. So when Trump said leave it to the states, it went back to the states. But then why did the Senate put any of that shit in the bill? When they, if it mattered, they could have left it out. Whatever. I'll just point out the change. Don't yell at me. Jen Hud says, did you see Donald J. Trump video saying we will have freedom cities? Could Trump be a globalist and we are all getting played? I don't want to believe it, but moments like this, I don't understand. It's not a great bill. I love the idea of freedom cities. I don't know why that would make a globalist.
Well, I mean, freedom cities would be very much in line with the Curtis Yarvin thing.
Oh, for sure. I get that.
Depending on how they operate, though, because there's also all this federal land that the federal government has acquired, and some of it is through the World Wildlife Initiatives and stuff. Prussiagate does a great bit on that in the series on King Charles, and I think that stuff it could play out in so many different ways. And I think the same thing is true, actually, of all this, Chinese farmland that's been bought up. I think there are going to be these massive areas where different kinds of development are going to be pushed. And so we'll see. But, all these things could go two different ways. And one of them is that direction that, I think that worry, that concern would be justified, but we can be hopeful and we can try to help steer the ship in the other direction. It actually, the people's input into these systems makes a difference. Not in terms of elections, but
that's why we argue against the sitting back and cheerleading thing.
Yep.
Yeah, no, that's all great, man. John in Connecticut says political parties are private nonprofit organizations which have usurped the public process of elections to gatekeep, monopolize access to public office.
Mm-hmm.
Spot on. Wedge Gravy, go back to the 1 per 30,000 representation and mandate that Congress meet 3 months of the year to review and pass bills unless a war declaration is declared, which must be approved by the people too. I mean, sounds better than the system we got.
Mm-hmm.
Wedge Gravy again, wouldn't conducting an emergency census be the perfect excuse to go door to door and ask for papers?
I like that.
Is that what the census people do, though? Do we actually have people that go door to door to every house in America? Because I've never had anybody show up at my door.
They definitely don't go to every house.
No.
I think sometimes they do follow up with people, like in person, but
yeah. Keith Higgins, I think Senator Patty Murray was really asking Russ Vogt is that a veto in your pocket, or are you just excited to testify? Love it. Thank you, Keith. Micro Toolmaker, happy Independence Day, Patriots. Where we go one, we go all. Thank you, Micro Toolmaker. Appreciate you. And by the way, for anybody who left any or gifted any subscriptions tonight, we really appreciate you and appreciate those. So thank you. T-Boyd 1120, great. So tonight, you take down the Fed res by drying up theirs money by cutting off taxes, form the people, and taking in money with tariffs into external revenue system. Feds go bankrupt. Thumbs up. I like the gist of what you said there, man. Big Mama T says, just checking in for my stretch and grin, or whatever you said Wednesday night. LOL. It's a slap and pickle. That's what we said.
A slap and pickle?
Well, do you remember a little slap and tickle? Like that's the same, but then in the show Beer Fest, the guy gets drunk and is like, a little slap and pickle. Have you seen that movie?
Beer Fest? No, I don't think so.
Oh my gosh. You should watch it.
Is that like the Super Troopers thing?
Yeah.
So those guys?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
You know,
maybe I saw a little bit of it. I don't know.
Here, I'm just going to send you a clip.
Maybe we can just do that as the outro.
Do that again. I mean, we did it as the outro on Wednesday.
Never mind. Yeah,
I'm totally down to doing it.
Okay, yeah, I'll just watch it on my own time.
Okay. Well, is it better than the? Yeah, we'll do the Schumer thing, but I sent it in the chat there for you, so you can just watch that clip. Next up, we got Wedged Gravy. Because there was never an amendment making the Federal Reserve Act of 1913 legal for Congress to hand control of the money supply to a third party, does that make every law pass and send moot? I mean, I could see that argument for sure. There's a lot of things that I think make every law passed moot. Yeah. Idle Lemons says, hey, hi guys, Lisa here. First time ranter. I've been watching and listening to you both for years and respect your opinions. How do you think Trump got elected with our fake elections?
I mean, I don't think Trump was ever not president. So and I know you're different on that, but yeah, I would say that elections are just television shows.
Yeah. I mean, if she's talking about 2016, like at some point, I think for Trump to do some of the things he's done, he had to legitimately win the mandate of the people. And then from there, who knows?
The mandate of the people, yes. An election, no.
Yes. But I'm saying like 2016, see, I think the fraud infrastructure was in place then for sure, but it really escalated after like essentially CISA was created, and 2018, 2019, 2020, like it was full bore. I think 2016, he lost all the states with the most amount of fraud, but then he won all the states where the least amount of fraud. And ever since then, they started stealing those states, Wisconsin, Georgia, all those other things. I think he legitimately won in 2016, even though there was fraud, but that's why they didn't call for an audit or anything. But yeah, 2024, we've talked about that so many times. And obviously devolution, like he was in some form of control the entire Biden presidency too. I don't think he was. Yeah, we don't get into that. Wedge Gravy, thank you for the rant, by the way. First time ranter. Wedge Gravy, what happens to debt created in Federal Reserve, note and paid United States dollar?
I don't know what the question is. What happens to the debt? I mean, what difference does it make? We can just chop it up in our imagination and it'll be gone.
Yeah. Final demand. Were the Trump-Putin comments July 3rd the same day Putin ended an onstage interview to take a call from Trump so as not to offend him?
That is exactly right, yes.
Cool. Old School 69, if elections are fake, then Bukele must have the same mandate as Trump, winning back-to-back terms with little opposition from the corrupt system while Trump keeps playing carrot psyops with his enemies.
It could be, or it could be that El Salvador is a proxy state of the United States in Central America, and he was simply installed there to give an example of why certain parts of the agenda on the other side of things need to be pushed forward. I mean, there's no reason to think that there's any elected leaders in the world.
I would agree with that completely. Melindy, could a Badlands show around NRX be on the horizon? Is that the neo-reactionary?
Yeah. I would love to do a show on that, but I would also love to do that show with Nick Land. So we have to figure out a way to make contact with him and get him involved. Man, everybody who interviews him is either a normie or an academic leftist philosophy major or philosophy interested person. And all of that stuff, all they ever talk about is like Marxism versus capitalism. It is so boring. I can't imagine. So I studied philosophy in college, and that was 25 years ago. But I cannot imagine studying philosophy in this era. It would be so boring and so leftist.
I'll try to get I'll try to DM out on Twitter, I guess, since I just follow them and see what happens. Put you two in touch, because that'd be cool to see you and him do a show on that. Ashley D, still trying to get connected with Badlanders in Nevada. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Yeah, so soon in the coming weeks, we're gonna have a revamped site on our website dedicated to the Badlanders group. So it'll be easier for you to find groups in your area. It'll be easier for you to broadcast when your meetups are. That's coming. So just stay tuned. Melindy, for what it's worth, Chris, I love your long podcasts.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, this podcast is great. It's hard for me to listen to an entire show because I have so little time the way it is, but they're fantastic. So I would encourage you all to check it out. 417 Patriot was just getting ready to get my GART tickets and saw that the VIP tickets are sold out. It's my birthday weekend and we're driving from Missouri. Is there a way to let us know of cancellations? Yeah, get your regular ticket first and email events@badlandsmedia.org. And yeah, just ask about that. We'll see if we can figure something out, especially if it's your birthday weekend. Lynn Yoda, a little off topic, but with elections being fake, Joe was never president. The inauguration was fake. President Trump president all along. Then wouldn't Pence still be VP? Yeah, we've talked about that before. Yeah. I don't know. I still see so many people like tagging me on Twitter and about the Pence stuff. Like, I'm not like in love with Pence, everybody. I'm just saying all the reasons you guys don't like Pence are not backed by any evidence, especially the pedophilia shit. There's no, I mean, if it's true, the evidence you guys are presenting is not real. Anyway, Julie JN, they've come to my door for census because I didn't fill it out. I kept getting notices telling me to fill it out against the law not to. Is that true? It's against the law to not fill out a census?
Well, I mean, they, well, no, they're not. It's not like they can put you in prison or fine you or anything. So it's like meaningless, but we're all supposed to do that. Yeah.
Interesting. Well, that's all the rants though tonight. So with that, I think we'll check out this Schumer Trump video and say goodnight, everybody. Chris, it's fun as always.
Yes, sir.
Hit that thumbs up on the way out the door, guys. Appreciate you. And we will see you guys next week. Oh, probably should unmute it.
A viral clip from 2006 is making waves online, and it's got everyone talking. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, one of President Donald Trump's biggest critics today, once praised him as a rising star. Yes, you heard that right. This moment comes from an old episode of Trump's reality show, The Apprentice, now streaming on Amazon Prime. Let's dive into this fascinating story. Back in season 5, episode 8 of The Apprentice, contestants competed in a challenge, and the winners earned a trip to Washington, D.C. for breakfast with then Senator Chuck Schumer. Over the meal, Schumer didn't hold back. He compared his own family's journey to Trump's, calling him a business prodigy. Schumer even told the contestants he always knew Trump, even as a young New Yorker, was going to go places. That's a far cry from the fiery political clashes we see between these two today. The clip's resurgence is sparking reactions across the political spectrum. On X, posts are buzzing, with some users pointing out how quickly alliances can shift. One post put it bluntly: people who once backed Trump, like Schumer, later turned against him. This moment is a reminder of how time and politics can reshape relationships. It's not just about Schumer and Trump. It's a snapshot of how public figures evolve, or maybe just play the game. Why is this clip hitting now? The Apprentice's availability on streaming platforms has brought old episodes back into the spotlight. Viewers are rediscovering moments like this, and it's fueling debates about authenticity in politics. Was Schumer's praise genuine back then, or just strategic? And what does it say about the divide between past and present? This story isn't just gossip, it's a window into the complex world of political loyalty and ambition. It shows how a single moment from nearly 2 decades ago can still stir up conversation and make us question what we see from our leaders today. Before I go, if you found this story as intriguing as I did, hit that subscribe button and join our community for more news that gets you thinking. Your support keeps us digging into stories like this one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.
My electricity bill dropped from $150